Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. How about you?
I'm all right. I have to figure out how to add Juan.
I wasn't entirely sure if that was an easy interface to do so or not.
No, I just have the, the bars and the video mute and end. Oh, FaceTime's a little bitch.
I wonder if you have to set up a group.
Oh, well, let me try this. I wonder if I can call from messages.
Maybe.
I can. All right, I'm going to hang up and try this again.
All right.
Woo! Hello, Juan. Hello, Jesse.
Hello.
So I instead of using, it's still FaceTime, but I had to use messages to make the call.
Yeah, I bet if you set up a group within FaceTime, maybe it would do it. We might have to explore that later.
My audio sounds different. Does your audio sound different?
Yeah, a little bit, but I've grown accustomed to it sounding different over FaceTime than what I actually get in the raw files anyway.
Well, because, there's the other recording.
Right, and the other recording is the one that I'm actually concerned about. So
Right. So it just threw me off a little.
it is interesting that via this method, I'm not recording a FaceTime track.
Oh, I'm still recording a FaceTime track.
That works. I only need the first couple of minutes to line it up. So
It's the clapper thing like in movies, right?
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So hello, JF. Welcome back. Well, yeah, I start recording before we even connect.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes I leave things for Jesse in my pre-recording.
Oh, okay.
And then pretty much any time I have a glitch, there's always a fun little audio snippet that I can grab.
Like sometimes it's like, one time it was like, and I don't know how long I did that in the pre-recording.
Yeah, I normally cut the pre-recording pieces, but I do have all the raw tracks saved if I ever want to go back and pull something from them.
Well, I always want to give you something to play with. Something that will surprise me.
So, I guess I have a quick question before we get into follow-up. Are you comfortable with us doing follow-up for your show on our show?
Absolutely.
Mr. Noob Guy?
Absolutely, I don't mind.
All right. Well, we've got a couple of things, and they're not really, I guess, follow-up in the traditional sense this time around. One is, I put in the notes 366 with a question mark.
And then yes.
Yep. And then this is just the running kind of side conversation that we've had where, as of today, I have hit 366 days in a row where I have hit my move goal via working out, etc. That's one full year accounting for a leap year.
Wow.
That's excellent, man.
Yeah.
My body is about ready to tell me to stop. I can feel it.
Do you know how like you have like a leap year every 4 years, and it turns out that every 200 years you don't have a leap year.
I don't follow.
So the leap year is because our actual year is 365 and 1/4 days, except for it's not quite 1/4 of a day. So what happens is every 4 years we add a year. We add a day at the end of February, and because it's not quite 1/4 of a day every 4 years, that's we have unable to account for in our calendars and daily timings. Every 200 years we skip the leap year. So the 200th year should be a leap year, but it's not.
I had a feeling that was the explanation, but I have not done that type of research into leap years.
I didn't do that kind of research into leap years either. It just happened to be on an episode of Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Nice way to bring it full circle.
Yeah, it's just something. It's something I've remembered. It's also like another thing I remembered from that show was that right now Polaris is our North Star, but because the Earth is wobbling, so the Earth is spinning on an axis, and it's wobbling, and that's actually the reason for the season, not mythical or religious icons. The reason for the season is the wobbling of the Earth's axis, but it's wobbling at a rate, or it's wobbling, and at some point, the North Star will be Vega instead of Polaris. But don't wait up; it's going to be like hundreds of years from now.
I was going to say, is that a fairly permanent switch when it happens?
No, it's not permanent, but it's people don't live long enough to like, hey, guess what? Now it's Vega, and the other day it was Polaris. We don't live that long. Our lifespan's too short. So that brings me to one more thing, and this is so Betelgeuse, the star in Orion, is.
Sorry, the first thing that came to mind was Michael Keaton.
I know.
Proceed.
I know. It's spelled very differently, but I've always wondered, like, if there was any relationship between the name, the character Tim Burton's character Beetlejuice and the star Betelgeuse. Anyway, Betelgeuse is on the verge of going supernova. Like, it's gonna happen any day, and if it were to happen, when it happens, the Earth will experience approximately 3 weeks of daytime. Like, we will not have nighttime for around 3 weeks.
Interesting.
Which I think is really cool. But the coolest part is if it were to happen now, like if we were to see it now, like if we got the supernova event happen right this instant, people on Earth wouldn't experience for 462 years, between 450 and 500 years. Because that's how far away Betelgeuse is from us, and it's one of the closest outside. Next to the sun, it is one of the closest stars to us. And I just thought that was really cool. So if we were to experience that supernova event, it was an event that happened 462 years ago. Like, that would have been the Renaissance.
Hasn't it been on the verge of going supernova for a decade plus at this point?
Well, we don't know because it's 462 light years away from us. We know that it's at a stage where it will become it'll eventually become a supernova. That supernova event could have come, like when it happened at Betelgeuse, like when it actually happened in real time, it could have been the Renaissance, and we won't see, and we wouldn't have known that until now. So we don't know. It's and I got one more. So since we're talking about light and timing, the Earth, so the sun, our star, our host star, the sun, from the surface of the sun, it takes 8 minutes for light to get from the surface of the sun to Earth. So it's not that far. It's much closer. So that's the distance of Betelgeuse is like the light is traveling at a constant the speed of light. And it's 560 or 462 years away. Betelgeuse is 462 years away. So that's the difference between the distance of Betelgeuse and our sun. But what's crazy is that the photons in the sun, like getting from the core of the sun to the surface of the sun, doesn't always, but can take up to like 180,000 years because of the density of the sun. Like how dense the sun is affects photons traveling.
Well, each one of the photons have to be emitted, absorbed for the next atom, and then emitted by that one to the next one, and so on and so forth. And they don't usually go radiating out. They are just messing around. So
I believe the term is nonlinear.
Nonlinear. Okay.
Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah, based on what the conversation at first, I remember there was there is a physicist that actually says that when we observe the universe, we are always time traveling, and the farther you see, the older is what you see. I mean, is the time traveling experienced into just pure observation, which is amazing. I mean, if you touch about that topic, I love that topic. I'm not an expert, but it's a topic that always surprised me. I'm a big fan of all these. There is actually a series that I recommended very much for the people that actually like this kind of topic. The name is The Inexplicable Universe, and it's by Dr. Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and is an excellent way of get to know this quirky and rather mysterious stuff, you know?
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson is an excellent communicator. I am not knowledgeable in astrophysics. I'm just a really good at mostly understanding concepts when presented to me in a relatively easy way and regurgitating them. That's kind of that's like I'm not going to come up with the new information. I just might be able to refine something at best or and understand things and be able to communicate them in a way that was communicated to me. So
I find very amusing the description that you did of regurgitating the knowledge.
That's what we did for tests. That's how I took all my chemistry tests. It was like they gave me input and I put it back out, and hopefully it was the same thing.
Hopefully, yeah. Okay.
But a lot of times it wasn't as elegant. That's
the nature of standardized testing.
Yeah. Oh, I remember like how I remember thinking after I had the first lab job that I worked in, I was like, oh, now I wish I could go take intro to chemistry again or general chemistry again because it was way easy. I mean, it's just like all the things that you had to I struggled with in general chemistry was like week one at my lab job, and then I was just like, yeah, this is super easy. Let me take that chemistry test. I still sucked at organic.
That's the way most topics go, though. I mean, you learn something via experience or any type of practical application, and it's much easier to understand and wrap your head around.
Absolutely. And then all the lab, quote unquote labs that they had that went with the general chemistry lecture class were all fucking bullshit. I mean, they were using equipment that it's like if you try to use that in an actual lab, they're like, what the fuck are you doing? I have a grant. Go buy yourself a pipetter. We don't use a bulb. You use an electric pipetter. So, yeah, very different experiences.
I remember my chemistry professor. He was hilarious, and he always, when he introduced a new topic for us, he always says okay, for instance, in oxide reduction thingy, that the fact when you have this equation that is non-precise in both sides, and you have to start passing electrons here and there or atoms here and there, and he's like, so I will explain to you, and you will explain to your parents how you lose chemistry just because you don't know how to sum, to make additions and subtractions of a simple equation. And he always was challenging us like that. He throw us many cool ideas and everything, and then it's but you won't learn anything because you are not capable of. And we're like, okay, thank you for the trust. It may help us when you are a 15-year-old full of questions. But yeah, love that guy.
You know how you have people with vanity license plates. I can never remember at the time of getting my license plates what a good vanity license plate would be. I can always remember it later on, right now. And I always thought VSEPR would be a great vanity license plate because it's like people will be like, what's VSEPR? Because well, first of all, is it Vesper? Did you misspell Vesper? No, it's VSEPR. Well, what's VSEPR? It's valence shell electron pair repulsion. Duh.
Oh my god.
I don't know why I remember stuff like that.
Oh man, I mean, if you had that license plate, you will be part of the cast of Big Bang Theory, still recording.
The other one I thought would be good is HMFNE. It's Happy Mutants for Nuclear Energy, but that was a little more inside. So anyway, stimulus checks.
No jumping on topics. Yeah.
So this is the piece that I was referencing where I wanted to know if we should do follow-up for another show in our show.
Sure. Let's talk about stimulus checks. I did not get one.
I got all mine.
Well, so I got all the money. It was a direct deposit instead of a check.
Oh, well, same here.
And it didn't have Joseph Biden's name on it. I was disappointed. I wanted to see his name on my direct deposit.
Yeah, but he's not narcissistic.
Oh.
So this is specifically related to, as of the time of recording, it's the most recent episode of the Noob Guy. And it was just follow-up where the statement was uncertainty on whether the stimulus checks classify as taxable income. And at least from the federal government's perspective, the answer is unequivocally no.
Right.
There apparently may be a couple of odd scenarios in certain states where there might be some impact, but for that, contact whoever you do your taxes with, because I'm not even going to pretend to understand the different laws state to state.
I won't even pretend to declare that thing to anything in tax. And I put it in there because I heard a lot of people in social media saying like, well, it has been 3 stimulus checks now since the pandemic started. That's a year of having these kind of things and the economy reactivating and everything. Do I have to pay taxes on it? Which my answer in the episode was like, I don't think so. But you never know. At some point there is so much misinformation around that is very hard to actually filter it, because the misinformants, let's call them that way, are getting better of misinformed. Or at least to make it believable.
The sad thing is that you're talking about every topic anymore.
Could we talk about the most recent bit of backpedaling from misinformation?
Sure.
Sidney Powell. Are you familiar with this story?
This is a comedy of errors. Sure. Yes, I am quite familiar. I have had fun reading the news, but let's go ahead.
Oh, I just no reasonable person. That's all I need. That's all.
It's much like the Chewbacca defense.
I lied so hard, y'all should have known not to believe me, is what she's saying. It's like this was such a big lie. You should have known that it was a lie.
Oh.
Yeah, my only fear about this particular legal strategy is that if it's upheld, that it sets precedent for pretty much every culpable person in the previous administration to use the same defense.
I hope.
I mean, that's the nature of legal precedent, No,
I know, right. But I'm just like
oh, it's beyond absurd.
Yeah.
I don't see how any.
We went into beyond absurd in 2016.
Oh my god. Very obscure time.
Yeah.
And now like Tucker Carlson.
Oh my god.
Tucker Carlson is on the same bandwagon, and they were comparing the Fox News to The Onion, which is not untrue, but that's not their intent, which is differently. The intent is the intent of The Onion is to, yes, be political satire. The intent of Fox News is not to be political satire, but they are as, no, I can't say that they are as untrustworthy as The Onion, because The Onion lets you know.
The Onion is actually more trustworthy, yeah.
Right, because they tell you that, hey, we're joking.
Every time that I see, and there is an episode, I think was last week, last Sunday, not the one that just happened, but the previous one, that John Oliver actually make a full episode of Tucker Carlson, and he always come up with these. Well, I love John Oliver particularly. I think that he's very sharp in all the analysis, with all the humor that it can come. But always Tucker makes this kind of question like, but what is the efficiency of the vaccine? Do we know if the vaccine actually works? And he doesn't realize, or he does realize, how dangerous is the way he asks is already implying the answer. That is, no, it's not efficient, or is no, it's not a good. Being vaccinated is not good, quotes unquote, because we will discuss that later. I do believe it's important, but go ahead.
No.
I mean, he implies the answer, because the way and the face, a very hideous face, he makes the question like, is it really necessary? And he's implying the answer. That's for me the biggest problem. And I thought it before I heard John Oliver, and before anybody said like, well, he's implying all the answers that he makes the questions on. So he's not actually asking. He's already judging. It's just that he will always defend his position as, I'm just asking. I'm just making the tough questions.
It's like objection, Your Honor, leading the witness.
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
I mean, it's the Onion is not as dangerous because we know that the Onion is out there to be funny, or it's an outright lie for the sake of humor and the sake of parody, sometimes satire, and so it's not dangerous because we know that. Whereas, like someone like Tucker Carlson and a lot of the Fox News hosts are incredibly dangerous because they erode at the truth. It's these partial lies or this leading these questions that are not like these questions that are like somewhat declarative but phrased in such a way that are meant to make you believe that we're just questioning or being skeptical, whereas it's a little less or it's a little more directed than pure skepticism. So I think that's a lot more dangerous because it's it's more destructive because in a way that is less obvious because of how little but persistent the assault on the truth is. But even like I enjoy watching CNN, but I understand why people are saying like, well, part of that's not not the news, and I was like, you're right, it's not. There's they go from an actual news story reporting the news straight into editorialism without really defining it, and you just have to know the difference between reporting and editorializing. And I think some people just like Fox News does the same thing, but I feel like people are less discerning about the difference between reporting and editorializing. So
that's being a bit generous, I think. I think most people just don't attempt to understand the difference. There are plenty of people who point to news source A, news source B, and you can easily say, well, here's bias in the way the narrative is crafted and presented. And sure, there's absolutely going to be bias. We're all human. We're going to have our preferences and, tell a story within the framework of things that we perceive. But the people who want to point to that don't want to make the effort of saying, I can see this is the story and these are the facts. This is the analysis of the story or commentary on the story. And I don't need the commentary, I just need the facts. And the facts are easy enough to cross-reference. Everybody has the same facts to work off of, typically. Or you can at least find corroborating facts through 2 or 3 other channels. And then it's pretty straightforward to say, okay, this is what happened. This other piece was commentary because it differs a little bit here and here and here. And for some reason or another, those same people used to look at old school quote unquote news as not having that delineation. But it's always been there. It's just a matter of now it's easier to fact check if you put in the effort, and people don't want to put in the effort. Instead, they would rather tune into their preferred network and have whatever their perception is of the reality around them being validated via that network. And so that takes care of all of it. There's no reason to go seek out what's true versus what's commentary. Here is a quote-unquote authoritative source telling me that what I believe is true, so it must be true. And that's what makes Fox News so dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's much easier. It's so much easier living in an echo chamber than constantly dealing with things that might, give you moments of cognitive dissonance or cause you to, question your core beliefs. So, yeah, it's
the official term is confirmation bias.
Yeah.
And all it is that every person, regardless of who you are and what your views are, seeks out those sources of truth that seem to confirm what you already believe. It's the way we are. There's nothing odd about that. The issue is that there are too many people who don't care to go beyond that bubble, so to speak. They don't care to understand what the reality of other groups are or other people are. You know, they only care about their perceived reality and what that means to them. I don't see that being something that will ever be overcome at a microcosm level, as long as we continue to consistently hear about the idea of the American dream, the self-made, fulfillment of what it means to be successful, that kind of story. As long as that narrative continues to exist, because of the nature of the foundation of the country, we're kind of at a catch-22 point, right? I mean, we embody these ideals that everybody can be whatever they want, and through that self-idealism, or I don't know if that's quite the right word, but it works, but through that narrative, we tend to seek out those things that promote the self. And there are a lot of things that we cannot address at a single me at the end of the chain point of or level of interaction.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I had a calendar. It was one of those ones where you pull off a piece of paper every day for the next day, and every one of them had like it was kind of it was Far Side style cartoon. It wasn't the Far Side. It was not quite as humorous or dark as the Far Side can be, but I just remember one of them was jumping to conclusions is easier than digging for facts. So that's kind of that kind of sums up how we or most of our society is. It's just so much easier to jump to the conclusion than to dig for facts. So,
especially if it is a conclusion that is comfortable with your pre-established ideas.
Yep.
And that's something that I'm guilty of that as well at some point, because coming back a little bit with what Jesse was mentioning, that we find like one particular kind of news, or we don't mind to corroborate and to hear the other part and all that stuff. I might be guilty on that, but I'm a big fan of CNN. Yes, I agree that sometimes it's blurry, the difference between the news that is just basically relating the facts and just tell you the facts, and that's it, without any particular evaluation of the facts, if they are good or bad or something. They are just facts. However, usually they come into the facts and the commentary. Like, for instance, I usually every night I see Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo. I always watch those two shows.
I love those two guys.
Yeah, I love them too. For me, they are great, and their analysis, I'm usually very towards the way they are thinking. Now, if I were to be truth to what Jesse was saying, I should also check on the other side on Fox. Talking Carson, I cannot even digest that guy.
That's a little extreme.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
Not quite what I was saying.
But hey,
I just had to interject that there. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you are going to both sides of the spectrum. For me, the way I see the evaluation and the objectivity on CNN, I find myself very comfortable. But I don't take the time to maybe evaluate maybe a little bit of the other side. Okay, Fox is going too much. Okay, fine. But I don't know. I mean, I tend to agree with them, and then now I'm evaluating now after this conversation am I getting too comfy as well into the ideas? Because basically I agree with them. It's like, I agree with them, then should be true. You know when I'm going into that interjection?
Yeah, the only reason that I say that Fox is a bit extreme is because Fox has repeatedly shown over time that they cannot be trusted with providing credible news.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There may be factual statements interwoven with different things that are presented, but nothing about what is presented conveys reality anymore. So like my typical idea or how I kind of go about it is I'll look at CNN, I'll look at the BBC, I'll look at Reuters, and I'll look at a few independent quote-unquote sources, mostly followed via Twitter, and just see what the commonalities of a story are. And that gives me an idea of what happened. I may, on occasion, see what the Fox News take is on it, but 99% of the time, it is so far detached from reality that it seems like they're actually trying to write some sort of parody story and failing miserably. No, that is not to say that occasionally they don't have something that also resembles the same general story. It's just that they're not presenting the story. In all of the others, I get this is what happened, and there's a little bit of analysis. Every time I'm looking at the same thing from a Fox perspective, it's this is why X group is attacking you, or this is why X group is attempting to tear down the very fabric of civilization. It's very clickbaity from a standpoint of trying to prey on emotion. And so I completely discredit Fox News as a reliable source for anything under the sun.
And I would agree. Actually, it is interesting to see the same technique in the US that is used in South America. I don't know if the English term is correct, but I think it's populism. In which you basically want to appeal to a sector of the population, telling them what they want to hear, not what is happening, but what they want to hear, so you get adepts and you get followers. And I think that's exactly
that's apt.
Is what, sorry?
That's apt. That's a fairly accurate description of what it is.
Yeah, and that's what has been working, and that's why you see terrible governors and politicians in South America, very corrupt and very, seeking power just for the sake of it. And they just, their political speeches is basically, is just food for the people, food for the masses. I will reduce the unemployment. I will improve the salaries. I will reduce corruption, and it's laughable. The problem is that if you hear Fox, I find it very interesting because usually in my country, in Colombia, the horse battle, let's say, or the element that they use to justify everything is like, if we don't do X, we will be the next Venezuela. If we don't choose this person, we will be the next Venezuela. Now, we come here, and then you see Fox News, and it's like, oh, if you select Joe Biden, we will be, I don't know, like the next Russia or something, or Cuba, or we will be socialist again, or we will be like, I don't know, like you get into very strong accusations in which like, oh, and now that's how you get like a lot of taxes, and this is how you get, into communism, this is the basis and everything. So I'm not saying that it's identical, but the way it is informed, it resembles a lot, and is concerning because you see how not great those countries are, and I'm talking about mine too. So
it's interesting the way you segued into that because it's 100% accurate. We'll back up slightly. I have had many direct personal interactions, so this is not anecdotal. This is actually conversations that I have had with other people that do not understand that an idea of attempting to do something for the greater good of society does not brand you socialist. Likewise, socialist does not brand you communist. But in the United States, the story, especially from the Republican Party, is that if you are not for the things they are for, if you're not on board with them, you must be a communist.
Or a fascist.
Yeah, and I think they're a better example of fascism than otherwise. But
no,
that's a whole
just,
different.
No, that's the word they say. That's it's like you're a Nazi communist, and I'm just like,
yeah,
what the.
And so like I've literally had conversations where, so does that mean you're a socialist? And it's like, you know what? If you can't pick out the difference, sure, 100%, no problem. I'll take it. Like if you don't want to understand the difference between socialism and communism and a desire to see social policies that actually enhance society, then we have no common ground, and there is no reason for that conversation to continue.
Excellent.
Yeah, you know what? The reason our podcasts are so long is because it's been a little over half an hour, and we're still in follow up.
Well, technically, we already covered 2 topics: 366 and the new stimulus check won't be taxable. That's the agreement.
That's all follow up. Those are not new topics. Those are follow up topics.
Hey, we haven't even gotten into the meat of the show.
I know, and I was gonna say that JF kind of like he touched on it just a little bit. There was a little. I mean, if you can look at our notes, it's a little teaser, but they can't look at our notes right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure not going to publish them because then I can't put random things in there and then decide not to go into them.
like how your anger management issues.
I don't have any issues with anger management. I'm the most peaceful person you'll ever meet.
I don't have any issues with anger management. I like to rage.
And of course, anybody who's met me knows I am not the most peaceful person you'll ever meet either. So.
But you're not angry either, usually.
There's this sort of infamous letter among.
Yeah, apparently I've been blacklisted for life from a certain former company.
I don't know about that. I have to imagine that the people in California don't care.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't. I'm sure it's 100% the specific retail division. And
yes,
that's it.
I'm going to say it's just like one store.
Yeah. For the backstory there, when I left a previous job, I decided to summarize my grievances in a letter, and I sent it to many individuals, including those at the top of the company, because I wanted to shed light on it. Because I am of the mindset that if I'm going to speak up on something, I'm going to speak up. If it burns a bridge, so help it. I'll nuke it. Whatever.
He lights the evening by the bridges he burns.
Yeah, I have no problems speaking my mind and making sure it is well known why I have decided to move forward with something else.
So they have in that particular store, they have like no shirt, no shoes, no Jesse, kind of?
Not quite. So here's a real life example was years after Jesse, because this is where I met Jesse, is at this particular job, and years after he left, all of the management had changed. Like there was no manager there from the time that he left that was there when this incident occurred, or when the story I'm telling about occurred. All of the management has changed over. And that was part of the problem. One of the problems that Jesse had written about in his letter was, the reason why there was so much management turnover, which was odd for this particular kind of place. Anyway, years later, Jesse's wife was being considered for a promotion, and one of the managers was like, well, what about that letter that Jesse wrote? And I was like, well, that's Jesse's letter, not his wife's letter, and she has nothing to do with that letter. But like whether or not she was going to get this promotion was under consideration because of that letter. And I sat there and advocated for Emily, and she ended up getting the promotion because she deserved it. But it was questioned, and I was like I said, well, she has nothing to do with that. She's guilty by association.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there were things that needed to be called out because multiple people had complained about them, but no one was wanting to go on record. And quite frankly, I have no problem going on record. If I did, I wouldn't record a show where I could be held accountable for, future generations.
Well, the thing about it is like there was nothing in that letter that was not. There was nothing in there that was untrue. Like every bit of what was in there was true. Nothing was hyperbolized. Nothing was exaggerated. It was all very factual.
And very, I won't say objectively written because that's not quite the right term, but it was very matter of fact. It was not attempting to spin a narrative. It was just calling out these are problems and these problems must be addressed.
Like it was a thing. You didn't have to spin a narrative. You didn't have to like sensationalize it. It was fairly well, the things that were happening were just the based on the facts were, enough to be like, this is a problem. So.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I've learned in all these in my work experience is that the stuff that hurt the most is usually the most truthful. So if Jesse's letter had such a resonance after he left, is because he just put his finger in that little scar and just push it like, yeah.
Kind of, yep.
And so the funny thing is, this is not the first time I have, or that was not the first time I had elected to make a splash, so to speak, upon leaving an organization. There was a previous one where I did a similar thing, where I actually went into a meeting with the CEO and the VP that I reported to at the time, and had a fairly heated discussion in person, and said, that's fine. You can either take this as the answer or you can show me the door. And the CEO there said, well, wait a minute. Let's not go that far. I said, no, it's either this or I'm gone. There is no in between, because this is the right way to do things. This is not. And I'm not going to adhere to the incorrect way of doing this thing. And it was a security/compliance concern, many, many, many years ago. But it was one of those things that was very, very clearly a right or wrong choice, and I refused to compromise. And needless to say, a few months later, they attempted to resurrect that discussion, and I walked out the door. So that one worked out in my favor too.
Well, I think we should, just dive right on into our topic. But before we do that, I want to go get another drink. Is that okay?
That works. It gives me a clean edit point.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
Talking about clean edit points, in the application FaceTime, I only hear you guys in my right ear.
Yeah, that's not surprising. So the way Audio Hijack works is it separates the streams unless you specifically tell it not to.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
because the way I hear it is I hear the conversation in the right ear, and then I hear my feed in the left, which right. I leave that way so that I can know that what I'm saying is being transmitted, and then I, of course, have the conversation in my ear to be able to.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, due to I basically copy yours, then that's exactly what is happening. I'm hearing myself in the left and hearing you guys on the right.
Yeah, you can completely ignore it for the most part. The only thing I actually need is the raw track from the local interface. The FaceTime recording, I only use the first couple of minutes to line it up, and then I mute it for the remainder of the editing session anyway.
Okay.
It's also there in case something goes wrong. So far, so good.
We say that, but honestly, I probably wouldn't use that recording anyway because it sounds so much worse. I would probably just cut that section.
So, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Well, let's pause for a second so I have another clean edit point. And that should be more than enough. Go ahead.
I'm back and I've got drinks.
Drinks.
Welcome back. So we actually had a specific topic planned for this evening that we have successfully avoided for 3/4 of an hour. What do you say we dig into that one?
Boom.
That sounds like I think we should jump to conclusions first.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Science, good. Everything else, bad.
Yeah.
There's the conclusion.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. Good night.
Dogma's bad sometimes.
The movie is phenomenal.
Oh, I meant like scientific dogma. It can be bad, but it should.
Oh, I know full well what you meant, but you didn't say that.
You leave it for interpretation, sir.
I don't like the part in the movie where the guy they look like the angels look like Ken dolls. It's funny.
I thought that was just like Affleck and Damon.
The angels.
Normally.
The angels.
I thought that was just Affleck and Damon normally.
Oh, you thought they were like Ken dolls?
Took you a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the topic was the vaccine, and I know we kind of teased it earlier, or JF kind of teased it earlier.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
But we've all managed to find our way to securing at least the first dose, theoretically a second dose, depending on which derivative. I don't know if we want to necessarily go into details there. I'm perfectly fine sharing. Up to you guys, though. What did you specifically want to talk about with the vaccine?
Well, from my perspective, and sorry if I'm jumping into the topic, I have been pursuing this vaccine since our company said, like, well, you are essential employees, you should just jump in. And I'm like, yeah. So I start checking everywhere. The Alabama.gov, UAB, you name it, I was registered. I registered probably in 10 places, and all of them are spamming my email right now. So there was a moment in which actually, Jesse, you sent me the CVS link, and I have been in the CVS link before, but it was always not available. So I was like, well, I actually asked you if you have a different link, because, I mean, so far have been very unsuccessful. But no, it was the same link, and suddenly, one day I was able to get my vaccine. I went to the Pfizer one. Why? Well, CVS offered the 3 vaccines that are available in the US. Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer Biotech. So I decided to do the Pfizer because after all my research and everything, it was the most compelling, at least to me. I have 0 allergies and everything, so I decided to jump in. But what I was surprised, and this is kind of a side / the same topic in general, was to see a lot of the mandates and people like, yeah, we're start getting vaccinated. We are not even like in 30% yet. And a lot of people are already asking for the mandate of the mask to go off and everything. It was very painful. But, I mean, my experience personally, finding the vaccine has been very stressful because we want it. We want it since the beginning. We never had any hesitation. But has been, difficult to find. And once found, I didn't care driving a couple of hours to get it done. I have my second dose in theory, and depending on when we are airing this show, but I should have it on the week of the 16th, I think. No, on the 9th in my case. So, yeah. That's more or less my experience and in how to find it. So whoever is listening to this show, our followers, cvs.com, go.
Their website was excellent.
Actually, I would say Walgreens beats CVS now in retrospect.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen Walgreens.
Yeah, I hadn't either until this morning or yesterday. One of the two. It may have been this morning. Just real quick, because why would I look at Walgreens when that's not who I went through? Emily was able to get her first dose today.
Yay!
Yep. So and she did it through Walgreens.
Which one did she get?
Pfizer as well.
Yeah, my wife has hers this Friday, which we are very excited about.
What I was going to say, though, is there's a more interesting story that you kind of touched on that I know John and I have both kind of expressed frustration at outside of the show, that I figured I would mention because it's really the more pertinent discussion. And that is the state of Alabama has been so ridiculously piss poor at being able to distribute the vaccine in any coherent or understandable fashion that it is amazing that any percentage of the population has been able to figure out a way to get a dose.
Yeah.
It's so incompetent, it's pretty much not understandable. And I can't think that the Department of Health or Public Health, whichever the acronym is, I can't think that they like that being the situation. There has to be something else at play. But at the same time, like, I have yet to hear anything from Jefferson County. Absolutely nothing. Like, I've registered 3 times with them. I finally called and at least confirmed they do have my information, but I still haven't heard anything from them. And that was well over a month ago that process started. I should have at least heard something saying, hey, we're fucking working on it, I registered with UAB. UAB at least sends me a weekly email saying, hey, we do not have available dates yet. We are working on it. That's the absolute minimum level of communication that I would expect. They at least attempt to be doing something, right? I checked CVS one morning, and I could schedule an appointment 2 days later, and I went and did it. Like, fuck the state. I don't give a shit at this point. They obviously can't do anything in a competent fashion. I will go somewhere else. And in this case, it was CVS. Walgreens, Emily checked yesterday and was able to schedule for today.
Yeah.
So she went and got the first dose. Like, it's anybody who is not going through the state apparently is doing a phenomenal job of distributing the vaccine in general. Pursue those options.
And when we get the go from our company and from the state that we are getting the 1B phase starting and spinning off, I couldn't think or I couldn't imagine this vaccine being better distributed than by the state themselves. That's why it was very shocking that I went to the private sector on CVS in my wife and my case, and in your case with Walgreens and CVS, like that you like personally as just a citizen go and find the better way rather than the government that should be the one that coordinates that. There was a discussion and the federal government wanted to be the one distributing it, but at the end of the day, for whatever reason, and I'm with you, Jesse, 100%, I was pretty frustrated. I did exactly, I mean, hearing you is like hearing my same story. I registered myself more than a month ago with the state, with the Shelby County in my case. Nothing, not even a confirmation email like UAB's that exactly I get the same, oh, sorry, we are still waiting. I put myself in Jefferson as well. In other counties, nothing at all. So it's very frustrating, actually.
It's been incredibly frustrating, and I don't know that I don't even know that it's from the stories that have been written. It seems to be an issue with the state legislature, state leaders, not so much the even statewide public health. And that's what led me to, find it on my own. Just like you guys, we work in the same place. Alabama's had a tiered rollout for the vaccine. there were two phases, a phase 1 and a phase 2, and then the phase 1 was broken down into 3 groups and in mid-January, we all based on our the work that we do, we qualified to be in phase 1B, which meant that pretty early on we all qualified. 2 months ago we all qualified for vaccination, and so I thought signing up with the public health organization would be the quickest way to get the vaccination because it's being limited to certain essential workers. And I signed up, and I remember I signed up in multiple places, and I remember being told that the last place I signed up, it was going to be, I would receive an email in 2 weeks' time to schedule my vaccination. And 2 weeks rolls by, and nothing happens. And I was very diligent to check my email multiple times a day, including the junk folder, just in case. I didn't want to miss that email. And after 3 weeks, I called, and same thing. They confirmed that they had all the right information, and I asked them. I was like, I was told 3 weeks ago that it would be 2 weeks, and I've heard nothing. And I said, is there any you have any time frame to tell me? And they're like, no. We'll get you, we will let you know when a vaccine is available for you, but there was, they couldn't tell me a time frame anymore.
And I can understand that you can be overwhelmed with a lot of people asking for the vaccine, but what I find very inexplicable and actually unjustifiable is that we are making these stupid faces so we don't overwhelm the system. And if you are so inoperative to actually make it work for your essential workers, then what are you doing? If you cannot protect your essential workers, then what is the government doing? And the other thing, let me finish very quick. The other thing that I find very stressful, at least for me, is that the vaccine has been politicized by a lot of governors or a lot of people in the political power. You should not politicize a vaccine, and that's my personal opinion, because this is a public health catastrophe right now, and we need to fix it rather than just politicize like, look how great I am finding the vaccines for you. Well, that wasn't the case here. And you can go ahead, Jesse, sorry.
I was just going to say, let's be honest with the term essential workers. That's just a nicer way of saying sacrificial workers.
Like pawns in the chess play?
Yes.
Well, it actually goes a step beyond that. I mean, if you think about our work and how, sure, you can make the case for essential workers because we are, because of the work that we're doing as far as the types of systems we support, but my risk of exposure via my job is practically nil.
We are not frontline workers.
Yeah.
Right. And so while I will 100% support that, yes, I could potentially have to go on site for something at any given time, that's fine. The likelihood of that happening, though, is so low that it's practically non-existent. You could easily put me at the back of the line. At the same time, though, I'm absolutely okay with accepting the essential worker moniker because of the types of systems that we do work on. It's very much a difficult idea to recognize that while the likelihood of something occurring that causes me to be exposed is low, it is possible, and it is in the realm of possibility that I'll have to deal with that at any given time. And so I can accept that the case can be made for essential versus frontline.
We're also being lumped in with, we have work colleagues that are on site.
And I think I lost audio.
Uh-oh. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear both of you.
I can hear everybody.
Jesse?
Jesse's not responding because he can't hear us.
Oh.
So I'll end the call and call back, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Nope. Hold on. I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah. For whatever reason, it actually dropped for a second audio wise, but it never dropped connection. So,
we stopped. We heard you for a moment and then couldn't hear you. But JF and I, we could hear each other the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is why I typically have you establish the call as well. That way I know for sure when whatever it is that's going on upstream screws up.
Yeah. So I was saying that like one of the things is we are lumped in with a sort of larger group of folks that are work colleagues that are on site, in public, supporting, public safety equipment. And so it is, it's one of those things that's, it's probably easier to say, well, you all qualify, instead of trying to parse out, well, you go on site often and you don't go on site at all, and so forth. So
I'm certain. And, the whole point of my, kind of tirade there was just that I can make the case either way. The biggest thing that is frustrating is that if I qualify, I should at least have some communication from the state, and I haven't had anything from the state.
No. I was, it was after that phone call I made 3 weeks into waiting, a few more weeks after that, it was brought to my girlfriend brought to my attention that this, first it was, she heard, a section on NPR, a story on NPR about a clinic in North Jefferson County that serves a predominantly black community, having never received a single dose of vaccine. And nearby pharmacies in Mountain Brook were, which is, the wealthiest town in the state, getting plenty of doses of vaccines. And this NPR article was based on a Bloomberg article that was written on the 25th of February. And it went into detail about how inequitable the distribution of vaccines are in the state of Alabama. And local and state officials have said basically, or the words they said were that they were distributing the vaccine to communities that were less skeptical of the vaccine.
Again, as I mentioned before, we are politicizing a lot of in the vaccine, and we are not meaning us in this conversation is the fact that wealthy or not, not wealthy or not, but your position will ensure you many privileges with a vaccine that should not be politicized. This should not be. As a matter of fact, I will say that less fortunate people and the people that lives into in a poorer condition are the more susceptible, not just to catch but to spread this kind of virus, because they live closer together. They are more people living in the same house, different conditions, you name it, and then they come and into any of the stores, and everybody gets infected in that way. So at the end of the day, the strategy should be kind of the opposite. I'm thinking right now. This is something that I just came up in my mind, is because the wealthier people might be able to just either work from home or just not have that much contact and more resources and everything. So yes, of course, I mean, I know that this is very idealistic that they won't be the first ones to get the vaccine, because everybody knew it. But again, it's a problem at the end of the day, because the society should be, in that particular case, should be equally distributing the vaccines regardless of the position of the population that they are serving. If they are essential workers, or they are frontline workers or something, I mean, the faces are the ones that actually drive the order, not anything else. I don't know if I'm making sense of the conversation, but
yeah, it's the same general argument that you can make on a number of different things, but the biggest piece is that those people who are generally lower on the income bracket don't have the choice. They have to go into work or they starve, right? that's at the end of the day, that's the big thing. And if you have to go into work or you're not going to survive, then you are absolutely more susceptible to catching and or spreading the virus. And given that typically those households are households where more people are congregating just because they're sharing financial resources, or maybe the only way they can survive is to have multiple families attempting to split the cost of living within whatever realm, etc. I mean, there are plenty of stories to weave around that. It's the same thing that most conversations want to avoid, right? The idea is that the disadvantaged population, whatever that is for you, whether it's based on income or based on any other factor, it's typically the same population that is most susceptible to problem when you're talking about sickness, like in the case of this particular pandemic, when you talk about financial inequality, when you talk about social inequality. All of those topics typically revolve around that same population. And we have yet to figure out how to address those inequalities, or we have yet to adequately address those inequalities in any way, shape, fashion, or form.
I'd even say that efforts have been taken to do the opposite of solving the problem, only to perpetuate the problem.
Yeah,
I'd agree. I don't want to sound like I'm negating that. It's just that overall, if you look at the attempts that have been made to overcome those types of inequalities, they still haven't been able to shift things in a way that makes sense. Now, part of that is opposition. Part of it is implementation. Part of it is that it didn't necessarily target the appropriate thing. It's when you're talking about the social sciences, a lot of it is learning and trying to figure out whether what you're doing has the effect that you desire or not because of the number of factors involved. And so some policies have been implemented that attempted to better those positions and have either failed or just generally maintained the status quo, or not had the impact that was desired, but at least had some impact. And then some have been, implemented that have completely and horribly backfired, et cetera. That's more what I'm trying to encompass, is that even in those places where efforts may have been made to halt or revert progress, yes, that's part of it, but that's not the entire story. The entire story is that overall we just have yet to address it appropriately.
Exactly. You're exactly right about that. So I ended up looking to see where could I go get a vaccine, and I drove 2 hours away to get my vaccine, and I went to a Walmart. I got a Modern A vaccine, and I was hoping one of you would call me out for calling it that, but
I was waiting to see where you finished that sentence.
Yeah. So I got a Moderna vaccine, and initially I remember thinking, a year ago, I remember thinking, okay, there's going to be a vaccine, and I honestly didn't think that they were going to get it done it was about 9 months time that they got it done.
Right about there.
Yeah.
The emergency orders were November, December time frame?
Yeah. And which is, that by itself is, I feel to be quite miraculous.
There was so much risk at stake for the global powers, and I'm not being into conspiracy theories or anything at all, but I'm talking like the countries and global powers, and those population at stake. You need to find whichever necessary fast. And I cannot imagine in those labs the amount of pressure that has been pushed to those scientists working day and night. I'm imagining it because I agree with John. It was pretty miraculous when they come up with an alternative, and they say it was 95% effective. And when I saw that news, I'm like, either it sounds too good to be true, you know. Of course, there is a lot of people that jump in and say like, oh, they had the cure since the beginning. They just want to decimate the weak people and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I don't even pay attention to those, but I was very surprised on the quick response of those labs, and I just start imagining those scientists like working their ass off, like seriously under pressure.
Yeah, I remember a year ago thinking, I wasn't skeptical of the vaccine, but I remember thinking very specifically, it's like, based on the work that I do, because at the time I was thinking like I'm not an essential worker because I'm working remotely, like I'll be in the last phase of getting the vaccine. But I remember thinking, oh yeah, I will. And I look back, this is so naive, but I just remember thinking, oh, I kind of don't mind being in the last group to get the vaccine because, people in the first group will be able to test it out and sort of be the guinea pigs. And, but in my mind, I was thinking about like, I remember, decades ago, the polio vaccine was really dangerous. The first polio vaccine was dangerous and they had to reformulate, they had to create a new polio vaccine. And then in the over the past year, I since learned that that polio vaccine that was so dangerous was the live it was a live virus. They were injecting people with a live virus as a like it was live but maybe deactivate. Okay, let me back up. Calling a virus alive is not correct because it's not a living organism. It's a virus. It does not meet the qualifications for life. It's a protein sheath. It's got RNA inside of it, and it replicates. It goes into a host and it replicates. It uses because it can't replicate on its own. It uses the host cells to replicate. So it's not, you can't kill a virus because they're not alive. Anyway, I just remember thinking they were injecting activated viruses in people, and that's not at all how vaccine technology has advanced so far from them. And when I found out what exactly like the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines do, like and as far as the RNA that's in the vaccine to create an immune response to is the exact same. They inject the RNA for the spikes that are on the coronavirus exterior, and those spikes are what our bodies our cells start to make those spikes, which is not the virus itself. It's just something that our antibodies can detect on the virus and attack it. So we have all those spikes in our body, or we have an immune response to those spikes. Therefore, we can effectively fight the virus if we are infected with it.
When you mentioned that to learn to identify the virus and all that stuff, I cannot avoid to think on. Have you seen Mutombo's Geico TV ad? No. The one that they are like somebody's trying to throw to toss a paper on on the garbage bin, and then is Mutombo, which is a basketball player, standing in front of that basket bin and boom, throwing the paper away and say like, "Not in my place!" And he start running. So I just imagine my body telling that to the coronavirus. That would be great. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, well, so the thing that's different so the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines do the same thing. It's the difference between the two of them, and this is the thing that took the longest. Like, this is what took the bulk of the time to develop, was the delivery of the RNA. It's like the RNA sequencing, I think, was relatively easy. And I think that RNA sequencing was shared among all scientists around the world. Like, I think it was knowledge that was made available when they could sequence the virus spike. But the part that is proprietary is the delivery method. So they had to create this like phospholipid, I think it's a phospholipid envelope that the RNA is inside of, and then that is what gets injected into you, and that is taken up by the cells. But it's the delivery method that I think was the bulk of what was difficult. Was like, how, okay, we know we need to put in the people, but how do we put it in there so that it's actually effective? And that was there. So the part of why this was so fast was because this phospholipid envelope for delivering mRNA has been studied for a decade or so, maybe longer, and it's the development of the technology has been in process long before this pandemic. And so this was one of the times where they were able to really start utilizing it in a significant vaccine. So that's part of what led to a 9-month turnaround time for the vaccine. Johnson & Johnson use a different delivery method, and that's why they have a one dose, because they were very, the delivery method of the vaccine for their from their technology has been used longer, so they're fairly confident that a single dose.
It was also a slightly different methodology for vaccination with the J&J.
Yeah, they're not using they're not injecting mRNA and doing the phospholipid envelope. So we may find out that the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines don't require a second dose. It's just that the way they tested, the way they developed their plan for inoculation, it did require 2 doses because they just weren't sure. And they're still researching whether or not that second dose will be required.
And also how long the immunity will last,
Yeah, so, it could be, we could have like annual boosters. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Interesting anecdote on this potential single shot thing. So Britain has specifically taken the approach of just get the first dose in as many people as possible and staggered, the booster shot beyond the 21 or 28 days, depending on which vaccine it is, and has seen pretty positive effects from that as well. And so right now, in the wake of real-time data absorption and trying to figure out what that means, what it comes down to currently is that the booster doesn't necessarily have to be provided within that month follow-up window. It can be delayed. It's just whether or not it's even necessary.
Right.
So right now it's a matter of caution. A particular like the technology that Moderna and Pfizer are using are quite a bit newer than the technology that Johnson & Johnson is using. So, they developed a study. They developed a trial. Basically, they developed a trial, and this is what they did in the trial, and they're going to keep doing what was done in the trial because that's what they know works. And as they gather more information, how many dosages you get may change.
Right.
One of the things that I rescue from, aside of all the technical and terminology that we just that John just explained, one of the things that I remember was a psychological effect to me is that I'm very close to what John said. Like, I don't mind being the last one, but I cannot tell you how much of a psychological effect it had on me, and I can tell on all of us. The fact that when we get that letter from the corporate side saying like, hey, go ahead and you are part of the 1B, go ahead and get the vaccine. As a matter of fact, we drove, well, at least John and I, we drove a couple of hours out of our home to get the vaccine. Even though we claim at first, like, I'm working from home, I can be the last person and vaccinated, I'm cool. But once you get the availability and the green light, how much that affect your decision making and say, okay, I register in Jefferson, I still don't have any answer back. And if I were still with the same idea at first, I would say like, well, I'm cool. They don't have still vaccines for me. I will wait. But when we saw the availability, we just jump on it.
Yeah, part of it also was like a year of pandemic living happened between when I had those thoughts of, being okay with the end of the line versus now when I'm like, I want it now. Like it's important for me. And normally driving out of my way like that and going to great lengths to get something that should be given to me in a more convenient way is normally something that really bothers me. And I just remember driving home and thinking, like, no regrets whatsoever. Doesn't bother me one single bit. Like, I felt so good from having, like, it really felt like, it really feels like the light at the end of the tunnel is like, there's a light there. So
Yeah. I mean, after I was driving home, I was singing in the radio, like, yay! Driving 2 hours. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah.
There's a big case to be made there for our proclivity to seek out those things that we know will help us survive as well. At a very fundamental level, if we have a choice between A and B, and A increases our likelihood for survival and B does not, we're going to do what we can to achieve A. That's just basic living creature nature, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not even restricted to humans. It's every living being ever. And so there is that aspect of it as well, that whether it's a conscious effort or a subconscious effort, you want to do things that increase your likelihood of survival. I mean, why do you think I'm on a 366-day streak of being fit? Sure as hell isn't because I enjoy it. It's because it was one of those few things that I looked at and said, you know what, this is a way that I can feel like I am in control of a potential outcome were I to contract whatever, whether we're talking about the current pandemic or any other virus. I recognized a state of health that was not ideal, and I was in a position to be able to do something about it. And so I did. And eventually I'm probably going to destroy a muscle or two, but hey, that's just my stubbornness, playing into it. And how much of deciding to go and to whatever length it may be to get a vaccine, or maybe it wasn't that difficult for someone, it's still the same root philosophical issue. It is increasing survivability in whatever fashion is necessary or available to you, and that's a pretty powerful force.
Absolutely. I mean, as John mentioned, I also not the biggest fan of driving a couple of hours for something that took like 5 minutes and then 15 minutes to be in the store just to make sure I won't faint or whatever, and then coming back. I was legit happy coming back, like singing. My brain was full of Survivor, baby. Yeah, absolutely. And I will do it again for my second dose. And probably now after this conversation, I will be less excited of the second dose. But hey, it is what it is. But I agree with you.
The only reason to be less excited is if you get hit with horrible side effects.
I know, I'm so excited for that second dose, and I've already expecting to get some side effects, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna stay in bed that day.
I thought that it was the first dose, the one with the side effect. And I was so happy, like, oh, just sore arm and a very minor headache. I was very happy. So the second one is the one with the juice?
So most people have people that have not had COVID-19 are more likely to have a side effect from the second dose rather than the first dose, if they have any side effect at all. if you've had COVID-19, you're more likely to get or they've seen that they're more likely to get a side effect from the first dose and not the second dose.
So on the second dose, which side effects are common? Like COVID-like side effects? Like difficulty breathing and things like that?
No, just like fever.
Oh.
Fever, headache.
The side effects that I have heard people mention repeatedly have been basically like having a fairly severe flu for a shortened time frame. That's the best way I can think of to describe it.
Something like 24 to 36 hours. But the difference is you're not actually sick. And so when those side effects go away, you feel completely normal. Like the folks that I know who've gotten the second vaccine and had the reaction, they're like, you feel like you've got the flu for 24 to 36 hours. And then like clockwork. Like nothing, like it's, or just like it just, once it's off, and you feel like completely normal. My sister had a reaction to the first dose because she had COVID over the summer, and she had like 103-degree fever, and then it broke. Like she was supposed to work, and her fever broke 2 hours before she was supposed to work, and once it broke, she was like, felt completely normal and had a normal day.
So why, if the booster is in theory not necessary, why is it kicking our balls?
It's just, it's your immune response. You've got so when you feel sick, a lot of what makes you feel sick is your immune response. So like when you have a sore throat, that's more your body damaging tissue in your or attacking tissue in your throat rather than the virus causing tissue in your throat. I mean, if the virus goes unchecked, yes, it will cause the pain. But by the time by the time you start feeling symptoms, a lot of it is the immune response, not so much the infection itself.
Okay.
And that's why because you don't have an infection, you're having an immune response, and that's why you feel bad. And then all of a sudden, when the immune response ends, you feel completely fine. Whereas when you are sick with an infection, you feel bad for a number of days after the immune response is over and you're feeling better. You still like take time to recover because of the infection. So
okay, makes sense.
The way I would describe it, just the way it's been explained to me, if you think about the first dose as introducing a pattern for your body to recognize, and so it understands, hey, this is not normal, this is how I would attack it if I see it again, kind of thing, right? And the second dose is presented and your body says, oh, hey, wait, I've seen this before, I'm supposed to attack it and get rid of it. So the first dose is kind of giving you the blueprint for the immune response, and the second dose is actually triggering the immune response.
Okay, makes sense. Interesting.
Now, I don't know how accurate that is scientifically, but that's been the way it's been explained for those people who experience side effects with the second dose.
I mean, makes perfect sense to me. The accuracy or inaccuracy, scientifically speaking, is just details at that point. For my perspective and for what I know and for what I care. So I really appreciate that.
I know what you're meaning, but I can't help but think that may be Fox News' next legal defense, is it's just the details.
Are you implying that I just give Fox News a good way, like, hey, just like scientific, just as details? Nobody cares.
It's just details.
Yeah, I couldn't resist. It was a good way to tie in the conversations together.
Thank you for that.
I don't have anything else specifically about the vaccine. Do we want to take another few-minute break for me to pour a second drink and have a good clean point?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be right back.
All right. So you went all the way to Mississippi, John?
I did.
Yeah. I went to Montgomery, which, living in Chelsea, I thought that, well, I mean, I'm already more southern than Birmingham, so I should be able to, get to Montgomery in a rather easy fashion. The problem is Chelsea, where I live, is not just south, it's southeast of Birmingham. So I have to
Yeah.
go back again to the west to meet 65. And I have to do it in two ways. Either the long mileage way, which is basically go straight to Highway 65 and then go south, or going to these very colorful, like countryside roads, like mini highways, mini roads basically, which are curved and go into a very little towns, including Columbiana and Calera and all other stuff, and then go to 65 and then go down, and that is like an hour and a half ish. It's like 100 an hour and 40 something minutes.
Oh, I know. I lived in Chelsea for a year and a half, and there's just no good way to get to 65 from Chelsea.
Yeah.
So, and I've gone to Montgomery through the back roads, and I've gone to Montgomery through to 65. So it's just there's just no good way to get to.
Yeah, there's no good way to go 65. But everything I mentioned is completely accurate. I was excited when I went there, and I was just singing happy,
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't care. I didn't care. Like there was a couple of songs that now I remember that had a guy and a girl singing, and I did both, making the girl's voice like la, 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 and then the guy whoa, 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 whoa.
Did you where did you go? You went to CVS?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my wife will get through CVS as well. We actually and that's the sad part is that it took me months, because it was literally months of searching here and there, and nobody was giving any reason. And then one day I scheduled it on a Wednesday. I had the vaccine on a Friday, and my wife checked on yesterday, and we decided to be on a Friday, and we will go to Montgomery because that's the one with Pfizer. The ones nearby our home, they have the Johnson & Johnson one. So we said screw it, we will go to Montgomery again.
Vaccine discrimination, how dare you?
Yeah, that's the thing. I really wanted the modern A vaccine, just because I thought the technology was really interesting.
No, I know JF and I have talked about it briefly. I wanted either Pfizer or Moderna just because of the way that I understood the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against the other vaccines. It's just I understood that what they were trying to do, and I'm not a scientist or a virologist or anything else, and so I don't really understand other vaccines. I get the concept, the idea, but for whatever reason, I latched on to what Pfizer and Moderna were trying to do.
Yeah.
There were some churches that have been telling their parishioners, congregations to avoid the Johnson & Johnson vaccine if you can. Have you heard this?
I haven't. It doesn't surprise me.
You know where I'm going
there's
with
a lot
this.
of not necessarily. I can think of 3 different ways you could take that. But the overarching story that I've heard is just that there's a lack of understanding of efficacy.
No, that's not at all the angle that I've been hearing. And the angle that I've been hearing is that they've asked, congregation members to avoid the Johnson & Johnson. Get the vaccine, but if you can get the Pfizer or the Moderna one, get those instead of Johnson & Johnson, because the research that went into the development of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine used stem cell research, and they are opposed, certain fundamentalist churches are opposed to stem cell research because they are concerned that the stem cells come from tissue from medical abortion.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yep. That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, sure, I think it's a complete farce for justifying the acceptance of a vaccine or not. But at the same time, I don't want to pass judgment on someone's religious beliefs either. Like I understand that for some people that's a concern, and if it's a concern of yours, then you weigh the benefits of, science versus attempting to get something else like that. That is on you to understand and reconcile, and I can understand that, or I shouldn't say I can understand it. I can accept that rationale. It may not be something that makes sense to me because I may think it's completely ridiculous, but that's because I don't have that same strong religious feeling surrounding that topic.
Yeah, I balk at the idea because, I grew up in that environment, and there's just so much misinformation, and it's all, beyond the behind the misinformation is manipulation, and so I find that incredibly distasteful. And there's this attitude of, this confirmation bias attitude that's behind it that perpetuates it, and that also is off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a 30-episode series on something like that as a topic. I think that's one of the few that I would say I'm not interested enough to pursue, other than if we have specific topics around them. Just because it's so convoluted, and there's so much that goes into what you feel strongly matters from so many different perspectives, because honestly, you can anger everyone with a single statement saying that all of the major religions are basically the same. And the difference is in whether they classify someone a prophet or not. And you can take it to the opposite extreme and create so many different delineations among those different religions that you can make them seem completely different. And I just feel like that's too much for something that is not specialized in that discussion as a long-running exploration series.
Yeah, talking religion is always like the hot potato stuff.
Oh, I won't shy away from it. Like, let's not go the opposite extreme. I have no problems angering anyone and everyone. I mean, we've already delved far more into politics than most people would do. What I'm meaning is more, I recognize how intensely those beliefs are and how intensely subdivided you can make them, where you can make them massive categories that anger everybody that you might classify in that group, and you can make them so minute that what seems to be a difference in the most minor of details is what delineates these two different places. It's more that there's so many ways to carve that up that I think it does it a disservice from an exploration standpoint if you're not fully invested and dedicated to that being the sole focus of what you're exploring, and you do it over many, 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 many episodes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think neither
I noticed John didn't pipe back up and say it makes sense, though.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's just I've had many. Once you put something out into the world to people that you love in a certain way, and it may be something where you from my position, it was something that I wanted to discuss and argue and have like a proper exchange of ideas. But when you do that with somebody that takes their beliefs and infuses their self-worth and identity into it, it becomes problematic, because all of a sudden anything that you argue against what they believe you are now arguing with their value as a person, and that gets really messy.
So I have less of a problem with that than I do the taking a step back and looking at the concept of like refusing the J&J vaccine because of the potential association with stem cell research. And the reason I say that is because what you're describing, like if you and I have a conversation about beliefs, I'm 100% on board.
Right.
It's more that in the scheme of, like, we're talking about an abstract group's set of beliefs, and I'm not versed enough to say X group, Y group, Z group, etc., and how that relates. And it's an area that I don't want to... I don't mind recognizing that my unqualified commentary shouldn't be applied to religion in that scope. Is that maybe a better way to think of it? That I have no problems applying my unqualified commentary to pretty much everything under the sun. But because of how much importance people place on their beliefs when it comes to religion and spirituality and however else you want to describe it, there is a fundamental component of self wrapped up in that. And I don't want to do the disservice to that fundamental component by not truly understanding and exploring all aspects of it.
I feel like if you even when you do understand things, and you may understand things better than, like, understand those things better than the people that you're discussing, it doesn't change the dynamic of that person feeling attacked or belittled because their beliefs are so intertwined.
It doesn't. And it's almost the same identical thing with the political spectrum. The reason politics is different is because there's a much more finite number of those segregations or delineations, or, you know, whatever, however you want to phrase it. There is a very finite spectrum for political discourse, and there is a very non-finite spectrum for religious discourse.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's like with political discussion, it's a little bit easier because everybody can find something wrong with the side that they are lean towards, or the side that they think they're on, if we're picking sides. But with religion, when you have a religion where you believe that it's the way, and not only is it the way, but it's the way in an infallible way, there's no gray area for you could be wrong. Whereas with politics, it's like, oh, I'm mostly subscribe or I support this, but I do know that here are the issues with that. Whereas with, certain religious, for certain fundamental religious beliefs, there is no room for error. There are no mistakes. It's a zero-sum game.
I'd say another way of saying that is that in all other areas of discourse, there is at least some room for logical discourse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to use the phrase logical discourse. I don't get to use it very often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you place it very wisely there.
So I thought you had, enlisted under the vaccine. I thought there's one more like personal or under personal experience I did want to share. Like when I got my vaccine, I felt really emotional, and most of it was, part of it was like, seeing the light at the end of starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But most of it was because, like, I remember sitting there thinking, like, I went to a Walmart, and the staff there were amazing. They were so good, and they were so helpful, and they did such a good job. And I just remember sitting there, and I was thinking that I really wish my dad could have made it just long enough to get the vaccine. Like if he had if he had lived, I think he probably would have been one of the first ones getting vaccinated in January or even December, and it was an emotional moment to get vaccinated for me.
I can certainly understand that. I did not have the same experience, not surprisingly, but I did have a number of thoughts of relief that I did not expect. Predominantly because I've done so well over the course of the past year. Like I get that many people have had very difficult times and have had whatever complications dealing with not being able to interact with people. Most of my social interactions are not in person anyway, and haven't been forever. Most of mine have been via either phone call or some other communication methodology aside from the interpersonal interactions in the office. And while I've missed those, it hasn't been something that has created any real level of anxiety for me personally, because I've been accustomed to these other methods for interaction for a couple of decades now. Obviously not the same exact methods because those technologies have changed, but the idea is still very much similar. And I was surprised at how relieved I felt getting that first dose, not because of anything specific, but more because I could worry less about the ineptitude of others. Yeah. I know that's not where you thought it was going, but it's
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot think in a better way of describing as the one that you just did.
It's like, the states that are ending their mask mandates now, and there are only 2 weeks and change left for the mask mandate in Alabama, and there's this bullshit coming out of Montgomery that we're just gonna trust Alabamians to do the right thing. Well, god damn it, why do we have laws to begin with if we're gonna trust Alabamians to do the right thing? Let's abolish all fucking laws. And because for the past year, we know that we can't trust Alabamians to do the right thing. They have to have their liberties, and they have to have, their freedoms, and, it's.
There's a slightly better analogy. I want to interject mostly so you can compose what the rest of your rant is. It's not that we should abolish laws. We should abolish locks on doors.
Yeah.
That's a more apt comparison because laws have never been the issue. It's any perceived slight, whether temporary or not, to the freedom, to whatever perceived freedom is being imposed or infringed upon. And I know you and I have had this discussion previously anyway, but it's, all right, you think wearing a mask silences you. Obviously, you don't know shit about communication. I cannot rationalize that statement. It's like saying the mask symbolizes a muzzle. Okay, fine. Well, a lock on a door symbolizes a lack of trust in everybody around you. It's the exact same principle. That's not what it symbolizes. What it symbolizes is there are some people who are going to try the door, and it's there to keep those people from coming in willingly. That's it. Right. There is no symbology. I had to use the word because I watched the Boondock Saints the other day.
The movie. Yeah. Oh, I was thinking about that movie. Oh.
I always watch it for St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yeah, so good.
So I wanted to use symbology as a word because if you haven't seen the Boondock Saints, go watch it. You'll get the reference.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But there's no deep symbolism to a lock on a door. There is no deep symbolism to a mask trying to help prevent the spread of a pandemic. No, you're absolutely fucking moronic if you think a mask symbolizes someone trying to silence you. Because if you can't talk through a mask, you don't need to be talking in the first place.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, that was my rant. Now you can go on yours.
No, so maybe we'll give you a pause moment right here because this might not need to be in the final edit. But I was trying to work in this rant that I heard. This man was ranting about people in the South standing in front of Confederate monuments and with saying that it was their American right to fly the Confederate flag, which that is true, but it's fun. So the argument was that may be true, but it's kind of like being opposed to gay marriage with a dick in your mouth.
I like the analogy.
And so I was trying to work
going
that.
to the final cut.
I was trying to work that in, and I was like, "Oh no, that's the wrong rant. That's a different rant. That's a different rant that I have." And so,
well, it is interesting though. So his background. I have been born and raised in the Southeast, not Alabama specifically, thank God, but not much better necessarily. And so the version of history that I have heard is very much a whitewashed version of history. And it took a long time to come to terms with some of those things because what you are consistently told in school is one thing and what other people in other regions are told is another, and you're trying to reconcile that. And you don't really know how to reconcile that because you can go to a textbook that is supposed to be a source of truth and read it for yourself that, this is the explanation, this is what it means, etc. And it took a long time to recognize that that is not necessarily accurate. It is a less damning portrayal of events. And it's not to be unexpected because history in general is written from the perspective of those people who want to shed it in a better light because of being in a better place in the future. And that's not quite the right description, but that is part of it. History is written by the victor, not...
In this case, the history is actually being written by the losers. And it's just
right.
It's just that the losers got to, kind of just, stay around and not be.
And that's kind of where I was going with it is that we're constantly told history is written by the victor. History is written by those people who, theoretically are going to write it in the most critical fashion for the opposing side. And it takes a long time to understand that that's not accurate.
Mm-hmm.
It may be accurate in one scenario, but that doesn't mean that it's accurate unanimously across the board. And in fact, it's fairly inaccurate as a whole.
That being the case, the Bible gives Lucifer and Satan kind of a bad rap, and it might not be deserved.
Well, he was an angel at one time, right? Isn't that the way the story goes?
What is wrong with aspiring to better your position? Like, he was an angel. That was pretty high up. He wanted to be like God. What's wrong with having aspirations?
This is a good test of whether or not we have anybody that actually listens and we get any type of response.
I mean, it's not like there was a coup
or an attempted one that failed on January the 6th.
No, there was no coup d'etat. It was just like, hey, we don't, well, first of all, this is some like next level Big Brother shit. But God was like, I don't like these thoughts that you're having, Lucy. Like, they're not okay, and I'm going to cast you out of here. And it was like, why is that a crime? It's like, how are thoughts a crime?
You really want to go there?
But the way the story goes, it wasn't just thoughts, right? There was actually action to change the outcome of some situation.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The Garden of Eden.
Oh no,
Tree of Life.
that's like way after the down. That's way after the fall. Like
we don't get the story of the fall.
Right.
Nobody was around for the story of the fall.
Why was that? Why is there no? Why did nobody write down the story of the fall? Because I think there's some damning details in the story of the fall. There's a lot that's omitted there.
Well, the story of the fall would have occurred prior to the story of creation.
I'm just saying the Dark Lord might not be so dark.
According to the Netflix series Lucifer, he's never a demon that creates evil. He punishes evil. That's what he said. And I'm using a series of Netflix. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say. Well, that's there's no problem with using that series on Netflix because most people's understanding of Lucifer and Satan come from Paradise Lost by John Milton, not the Holy Bible by Jesus Christ and God.
Yeah. Actually, I might argue that a little bit. Unsurprisingly. I think most people have a concept of Satan and Lucifer that is driven from just anecdotal stories. There's no singular source. It is what they hear for whatever religious establishment or church or, et cetera, that they either go to regularly or have subjected themselves to occasionally or, whatever the gamut. There's a picture of a horned being carrying either a whip or a trident, depending on what depiction you've seen, that is more often equated to something from
mythology.
Honestly, Dante, the Divine Comedy.
I was just going to say, like, what you were describing is like that's Dante's Inferno.
Right. Well, yeah, sorry. I said Divine Comedy, didn't I? But yeah. I mean, most people draw their idea from something that has been depicted from a classical work, not from any teaching.
Right. I mean, Paradise Lost. John Milton's Paradise Lost is a great source of like the Western concept of the Dark Lord, and so I got into saying the Dark Lord because of. There's a clip of Aubrey Plaza accepting an award for her performance on, I think, Community, and she starts to think in her acceptance speech, she starts to think, quote unquote, the Dark Lord, and Chris Pratt is like, not this Dark Lord stuff again, and it was amusing. So.
I can see it being amusing. The first thing I think of every single time is Voldemort.
He who will not be named. Here's the thing about Voldemort. Voldemort is like one of the most flaccid antagonists in that I could ever think of. He couldn't even take over a high school of wizards and witches that were in training. He couldn't even take over a high school. So
yeah, I
mean that's just like, it's like he's supposed to be so great, this great dark and powerful, sorcerer wizard, and he couldn't, beat a bunch of high schoolers that were not even fully trained.
Well, you know why we have that perspective. That difference of perspective, right? We came from a generation that saw Vader, who was obviously strong and terrifying, and then we saw Voldemort, who was not.
Vader was, took over the Galactic Empire. I mean, a whole galaxy far, far away.
But I mean, you see where I'm going with that comparison, right?
Yeah.
We had villains that were absolutely terrifying.
Yes. And, Voldemort just sort of didn't have a nose.
Why so nosy?
We've digressed quite a bit. I actually don't even know what else is in the notes. Do we have anything else that we want to do before we round out the actual official show, and then we'll move into after show?
No, there's nothing that has to be. I mean, the bulk of the topic was covered. So,
yeah. What about you, JF? Do you have anything else you wanted to wrap up before we move into a pause and after show?
Just one thing. Following into the Harry Potter universe, I agree with what with Voldemort was like it feels to me like the stories that you tell your kid when you are very young, to be afraid of, like, if you don't sleep, it come, I don't know, whatever, and it will take you, or something like that. If you scare a kid or something.
Aesop's fables.
Yeah. So for me, Voldemort is more of that. And when I see, even though I believe, and we're not talking quality of the movie, please take that in consideration. But I think that Grindelwald is a more adult evil character, or antagonist, let's say, to the movie than Voldemort. Voldemort seems to me like a fable character, as you mentioned, and he's like the guy is meant to scare, in that way. But Grindelwald is more of to adult. Is more an adulthood antagonist for a movie. What do you think before we wrap up?
I actually don't know that I have a response to that without thinking about it a bit more.
I understand that the movies, I mean the Fantastic Beast movies are not my, like, I kind of prefer more Harry Potters, but I every time that I see Grindelwald and the way he operates, he's less spectacular and flashy, but he's more into the topic. But Voldemort is more of this guy that scares everybody and and speaks like this and has no nose and speaks to snakes, and is very folkloric and is very flashy in that way. But at the end of the day, the content is just that he seeks revenge on a newborn that he couldn't kill, and he still cannot kill, and he tried again and he cannot kill. And he's like, oh, the Harry Potter.
I mean, that's just a whole pride comes before the fall. He just got too proud to there's nothing special about Harry Potter. That was the thing. Sorry, spoiler. There's nothing special about Harry Potter. He's not, he's not the one.
Who can beat Neville Longbottom too?
He's no Neo, but it's, Tom Riddle is more formidable than Voldemort.
Yeah.
Because Tom Riddle was a powerful child. He was a teenager, and he was totally reckless, and it fizzled out. As he became Voldemort, he sold out, man. He just sold out.
Well, I want to harp on that one point piece. Riddle had a plan, and he executed that plan with a level of ruthlessness that, had it carried over to his transition to Voldemort, could have made him a very compelling antagonist. The problem is that transition occurred in a way that gave him a single-minded purpose on what it meant to proceed from there. And so I get the idea that realistically what you're actually setting up is that you had Riddle go from point A to point B, and then there's this need to pivot to be able to go from B to C, and this need to pivot is the point you're stuck in. And so if you get past that, he becomes a very scary or compelling antagonist, and we just never get that because he never is able to completely make that pivot. So from a literary sense, I can get where we were going. It's just that he was scarier prior to that transition than he was post-transition.
You make a very good point.
Yeah.
And I said he is sold out, and I'm really glad that you guys didn't call me out on that, because I don't hate it. I can't support statement. It just sounded like the right thing to say.
Sounds like a good way to say goodbye to the episode.
Well, and the other thing to mention is full disclosure. I have not actually watched the Fantastic Beasts movies yet. Like, I started to watch the first one and kind of fell asleep, and so I don't truly know everything you're referencing with Grindelwald anyway.
Right.
Which is part of why I don't have a good answer.
Yeah, makes sense. If at some point you either read the references of Grindelwald in the book, in any of the books, or if you check the movies, especially, I mean, I feel that is a more adult version of an antagonist. The other one sounds like the scary stories for kids, basically.
The Boogeyman. The Boogeyman.
The Boogeyman, yeah. It's a very monochromatic. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Voldemort is very monochromatic, single-minded, single idea, and solely focused in one thing alone. While Grindelwald, in a very short way, he tries to seduce, while the other one tries to scare. This one tries to seduce and say that what he's doing is, quotes, for the greater good. That's his phrase.
Yeah.
And that's why make him more compelling as an adult antagonist than Voldemort. I just wish that the movies were a little bit less focused in the Beast and in this Newt Scamander guy. I'm just not the biggest fan of him. But the antagonist, Grindelwald, as a character, I find it very interesting. That's the only reason why I watch these movies, because I read them before, and I'm like, that I want to see the representation of this guy. And so far, I gotta say, Johnny Depp has made in my opinion, and I'm not a connoisseur on movies and like with a vast experience now. I'm a noob guy, remember? But I do like the way he interprets the character, because it's kind of emotionless. Yes, he tried to send that emotion to everybody, that everything he's doing is for the greater good, and the Muggles are the evil people because of the wars, and we can tell them better because we know better. We are far superior. It's like this Nazi propaganda all over again, which is, to the minds that are easy to catch, very attractive. You know, so it's kind of that's kind of the way I'm oriented in the evil guy, or the antagonist. More than the evil guy sounds pretty, one-sided. It's just antagonist on this story. So.
Yeah, everybody has a story, including the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
So the entire description made me think of this particular question. What you were saying sounds like it is a better literary creation of a Trump equivalent.
And now we go to the after show.
It was too good. I had to feel like that was a wrapping up comment.
It's a perfect comment.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at untitled_hosts. Send us an email at untitled.hosts@gmail.com, or follow the feed directly at theUntitledPodcast.com. You can also find all sorts of ways to contact Jesse at jthart.com. Thank you for listening. That's a wrap.
Just
Nice.
a moment of silence. Do you remember a moment of silences in school?
Every single morning.
Mm-hmm. A time of reflection.
A time of scribbling out homework real quick that I was supposed to do.
Totally.
Yeah. They say a moment of silence, no motionless. So, yeah.
Is there?
So do we really even have anything for the after show?
I mean, like we had after show all throughout the show.
Yeah, I mean, this was very much a just wandering, have fun conversation, which is what I expected.
Yeah.
I do feel like we didn't give JF a lot of time to talk, though.
And you know what? Quite the opposite. I think that in the first time that I came into the show, I feel that I talk too much. And the reason why I feel that this was a perfect balance is because I'm not only a guest on your podcast, even if I retransmit also in mine, is because I like the leading that you do to your podcast. I listen to your podcast every week, and one of the things that I want to do with mine is to have somebody that I have a cool conversation with. Because I enjoy doing my podcast, but the reason I make it short is because I get tired of me talking alone, you know? So I make a short podcast of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and that's it. That's tops. I mean, 20 minutes I have never reached that much. But it's between 10 and 15 minutes. And the fact that in today we actually had a conversation that was not me heavy is actually very refreshing in that side. So
yeah, I don't know that I could record an episode that's just me talking for 10 minutes. I would get bored listening to me.
that's my problem too.
See, I think people, if I did that, I think people would just like use it. Maybe they'll use it to fall asleep, not really, because it's gonna be la la la. And
to be honest, audience is audience. Whoever wants to listen to me to fall asleep, by all means, do it. I actually, if you listen to my podcast, I always put very soft background music. So it's intended to, if either you like it because of the topic, or my voice for some reason, or whatever, or
the accent.
You want it. Look, yeah, the accent also, I've heard that, and or with the music just in the background and just having a slightly accented voice talking to you, that's fine. That make it suitable to sleep, by all means.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I always my immediate reaction every single time is I hear the music and it's like, this is so distracting.
It starts with the music, but I fade it before I start talking.
I know, but to me, the background music for listening to somebody talk is just completely just out of left field, distracting kind of thing. Like my brain just doesn't accept the two together.
So it's funny. I don't think I most of the podcasts I listen to are average about 2 hours. There's a few that are like in the 20-minute range, and they just seem like just little tidbits, and those are fun to listen to. There's actually one that's usually about 20 minutes long, and it's two women talking. And they're new at this podcast thing, and they have not discovered clipping, because sometimes they'll laugh, and I'm just like, oh, ow, that's just, it's just too much. It's too loud. It's like, I'm concerned that a woofer is gonna, like tear or something, and or anyway, it turns out listening to their show at 1.5x speed is the best way to listen to that show, because they talk too slow. So even though they have a 20-minute podcast, it ends up being like, 15 minutes.
Huh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, segueing from that, by the time, when I actually take the time to do a complete edit and, remove larger gaps and not just halfway shrink them, it's funny, our show shrinks by an average of about 10 minutes.
Wow. That means like almost everything we said was important.
I know. It's remarkably consistent. Like, I'm lucky if I get 10 minutes of shrinkage.
Maybe don't edit in such a cold room.
Yeah, or maybe I should just be more aggressive on cutting out silence and clipping the end of a consonant with the beginning of another, like that close, and see what I get.
Yeah,
it will sound very robotic, I think.
We've had a couple of episodes that, if you go back and listen, they sound horrible, and I take full credit for playing with editing styles for those.
Well, in my opinion, when I listen to your podcast particularly, I usually do it when I go to the office, because I go on Wednesdays with all meetings. and it takes me around 35 to 40 minutes to go there without any rush in the traffic. I don't care, and I put it in the background, and it's my whole way going there and then coming back. And one of the things that I like of this podcast of yours is that it doesn't sound like that there is a time limit. And then because I hear a lot of the podcasters from other podcasts and famous ones, and they talk it like there is a time constraint, like move. And I know, because we humans take, turns and pauses here and there. I know that it's very like in the post-production that they just cut it. And it make me feel a bit artificial at point, because we need natural pauses and natural, like I used to edit the hell out of my episodes. I record like 30 minutes and it end up in 15, because I cut all the or I cough, or the dog sound, or whatever, and then I decided to leave it a little bit more organic. May sound a little bit less professional in that way, or maybe less clean, I don't know. But it sounds more organic, more natural, more a conversation.
Yeah, so we're, this is episode 29, so we're over half of a year in, and it took me probably 20 episodes to truly figure out what I was going for in post-production and how to edit it in a way that made sense.
Yeah.
And the approach that I take is I strip all silence first. I don't necessarily collapse all those gaps, but if there's enough of a gap that it's a noticeable pause, I'll shrink it. But I try to leave all of the sounds where, the typical speech patterns, like the I will try to leave pause and then statement, anything that is a natural occurrence within speech, I try to leave. Pretty much the only thing I cut now, John has this habit of doing a smack of his lips. I can't even reproduce it.
I had no idea.
He starts talking. I will cut those because there's a very specific waveform that I see that is that particular sound, and it normally is followed by enough silence that it creates a snippet. So, like, when I see that while I'm editing, sure, I'll delete that. I know what that is. Or, those types of things, a lot of times I'll catch, sometimes I won't. But that is most of what I focus on. And I've gotten to where I can edit, for the most part, edit and produce one of our shows, averaging 2 hours, in about 2 to 2.5 hours of post. And honestly, the majority of that is cut the silence and then just compress it. Every place that I see a gap, manually move it over a little bit so that the gap's not there, and so that there's not a long silence in between or a long pause in between. That's the bulk of the editing work. The rest of it is, I happen to hear this little piece and I can select it and cut it and call it a day. The most difficult part is coming up with the sections and chapter markers, because I have to go back and listen to sections and try to figure out, okay, what makes sense to call this section, because we don't stick to a topic for a section. So what can I latch onto out of this, 10-minute section or 5-minute section or whatever the case may be? And then I have to keep listening to bits and pieces. Like those two things are the things that take up the most of my time editing.
If we were actually intended to do that, we could actually do a better job of that and be more, intentful with that. And I don't think that would be I don't think that's a bad idea. So
it's not, but I honestly have no problem with taking the time. Whatever time it takes us to record the episode, if that's all the time that I take editing, I call that a win.
Yeah. I mean, the freeform conversation is nice, but,
Yeah, I at this point, I would rather keep the freeform conversation as long as I can go from record a show to be able to publish it in a 2-day time frame. I call that perfectly acceptable, because most of the time I'm meeting next day anyway. The second day is just me taking all of the administrative overhead of creating show notes that are in formatted form and putting it on 2 different places, and 2 different places being the actual raw feed and the like ingested sub description stuff that for some reason I have to do those 2 different ways. But that's administrative overhead that I could care less about.
Right.
It's called producing.
Yeah, and the pre-production, you are not even taking the time of it, but because we put, I mean, in your case, you put the notes, that is, it's not even a script, it's a guideline of topics, because I'm very happy that the topics actually go off the limit, because it make it more, again, as a natural conversation. You usually, unless it's a meeting when it's supposed to, okay, I need to cover these topics and I need to convey this message. This is a free podcast and you can talk of whatever. So anyway, the pre-production also takes some time of what do we talk, And for me, that's the most painful part in the Noob Guy, because I'm alone. So like, what topic should I talk about that I haven't talked about before, or that I have talked, but I have upgrades or new notes or whatever. So that part is really crucial. And you just crush it like freely because you put these shared notes and you just start filling it up, basically. So that's pretty cool.
Well, it's the benefit of the entire premise of the show is a couple of people grabbing a drink and having a conversation in a lounge, right? The idea is that there's no overly formalized structure.
Right.
The only structure we currently have is that we do follow up at the beginning of the show. Why? Well, because it just sort of sounds like it makes sense. Does it actually happen that way? That's debatable.
Yeah, sometimes I just can't be bothered with follow up.
And sometimes there'll be follow up halfway through the show. You never can expect. It's very much a recording of what it would be like for 2 people to just go in a room, have a drink, have their phones available, and have a conversation.
Sounds like the healthy pours, except that the pours are individually being poured instead of commonly.
Socially distant pours.
Yeah. Physically distant pours.
Yeah, I do believe that after we get our booster shot, we need to have a new,
a drink meeting.
Yeah. Basically.
I think we need to record another crossover episode because I've already proved out that recording 2 mics on one interface is easy. I can add a third. We can just do a show live.
I can have my Blue Yeti is a semi-professional good enough microphone for sure. I'm up for it. By the way, did you were able to get the Accusations, Jesse, with your guy?
The store here has not replenished so far, and so I'm still waiting. Like from timeline for me to request them attempt to get it to when I should go check is this upcoming week. So
Yay.
To be determined.
Okay.
I do currently have 2 bottles in my stash, though.
I kind of hate you.
Never less than 2 bottles.
Never. I refuse to open one of the bottles until I have a replacement.
I wish I had your strength. I had that policy and then say, fuck it, we're in a pandemic.
You know what got me through? Jameson.
Oh, okay.
I defaulted to drinking Jameson until I could find another bottle of the Accusations, and then I would drink the Accusations, and then I would go back to Jameson until I could find it again.
Okay.
Basically, it's, substitution of one liquor for another. Anything I can do to punish my liver, perfectly acceptable.
Oh, boy. By the way, I'm still recording. Should I stop?
Oh, no.
No.
We record
thing,
the after show.
All this.
The after show is just I don't have to listen for different, subsections. The after show is just the after show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just let me know when, when do we want this meeting to happen? I guess after all of us have the second shot and whenever we feel comfortable, blah. And I can
honestly,
take my
I could
microphone.
care less. I would have met 3 months ago. So the biggest thing for me is I just haven't been bothered with like trying to help facilitate scheduling it. But if someone else wanted to say, hey, we're going to do it here, sure, I'll be there.
All right.
Which is my semi-passive aggressive way of saying I don't have to be the one to schedule it.
Yeah, we got the message, sir.
See, at least I follow up passive aggressiveness with very direct statements.
With very aggressive.
Yes.
Active aggressive.
It's like, what is it if you're not passive aggressive? You're just aggressive. Not aggressive, but just aggressive.
Or just actively aggressive.
But I don't see that was an aggressive statement. That was
no,
just
it wasn't.
A clarification
it was
fact.
It was a direct statement. It was a statement of fact, yes.
Well, I'm totally up for it. Just let me know. I have a, you know what? I have a calendar here. That's the magic of technology. So.
Yeah, I don't acknowledge the existence of calendars after like 9:00 p.m.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. It's just a random statement.
He also doesn't acknowledge The Lost World, the second Jurassic Park movie. There
is no second Jurassic Park movie. They decided to film Jurassic Park 1 and 3, and I don't know why.
This is an ongoing. This has been ongoing for maybe half a decade at this point.
I think it's been more than half a decade. I think neither one of us can remember the actual time frames, and so we just choose something that seems like a long time and is actually nowhere close to how long it's actually been.
Well, I feel like we didn't have this conversation at Apple. So that's how I can go with like half a decade.
Well, that's fair enough. That would be a fairly adequate assessment, I guess.
So I have this like sort of freakish ability with dates. I remember dates really well, and it's like to the extent where like some of my friends are like, don't if he tells you it's this time and date, it's probably right. And I thought everybody experienced the world this way, and I found out like nobody experiences the world this way until at the beginning of this year. I found out my cousin does the same thing. So
yeah, I will freely acknowledge that I am horrible with time, and even more so after 2020.
Oh yeah. I keep saying last year, and I'm referring 2019. 2020 is like Jurassic Park 2.
Oh, it's not even like that for me. Like for me, I could say 5 years ago, and it could actually legitimately be 20 years ago, and I can't tell the difference.
Oh, okay. See, so for me, here's where it gets really weird, and that is in the early 2000s. I somehow associated time, like, okay, this event happened at this time, because like I can break up things into seasons. Like it's like, okay, if we were at the beach, it's probably summertime. I can remember based on like weather or climate or seasonal temperatures. And then I had this weird thing. It's like I somehow was able to associate certain events with the sunglasses I was wearing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
And now that's not the case anymore, because like I've had the same pair of sunglasses for quite a while. But the now, like with the fact that like we take so many more pictures, and those pictures are all on my phone, that makes it so like it makes my ability to remember things so much easier. And it's actually gotten better, because it's like I remember having this discussion with a friend of mine. He was like, "Oh, didn't we go on this camping trip, like this hiking trip, like then?" I was like, "No, man, it was April of 2019." He's like, "No, I'm pretty sure it was like," and he was like thinking it was like October. I was like, "No, it was definitely April of 2019." And I was like, "I know, because the April weather, it was kind of rainy, but it wasn't too cold, and it was around Easter." And he's just like, "What?" And then I was like, "Go look at your pictures." And he goes and look. Okay, you're right.
I'm surprised you haven't decided to actually identify like passage of time with the release cycle of like the Nike Trailhawk, blah 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 blah, whatever that shoe is.
It was the Nike Air Zoom Wild Horse 4.
Yeah, I couldn't remember, but I knew you would. I knew you would have the entire name on, just ready to go.
I it was. I had it written down. Oh, I got it. Oh, I got it right. No, I almost got it right. I had, it's the Nike Air Zoom Wild Horse 4 Trail. I forgot the trail.
See, at least I knew trail was somewhere in there. I know I said Trailhawk.
I know, but I know why. I know why.
Pointing at the Jeep.
You're a Jeep enthusiast.
I am. At this point, I have decided that I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're problematic in some respects, but it's kind of nice to be involved with some outdoor activity where having an outdoor geared vehicle makes sense.
Totally.
Totally.
I got totally from this friend of mine, and she's like a year younger than me, and I'd say something, she'd be like, totally, and I was like, I kind of like that.
is like now is what's the name of that, like this phrase that he's repeating after we agreed on something. He says like cool beans. I'm like, that's so patterned. That's so much like that joke. Is like saying super. It's like, what do you want to, yeah, super. It's like
I didn't like cool beans in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I don't like it now. It just, I don't know, it makes me think of like a really awkward fart.
And you think like, those are cool beans.
And it's because like it's like you have there's not with the stereotypical beans make you fart, and then like when you say cool beans, it's like farts are hot, and if you had a cool fart, that would be weird.
you just pooped, dude.
I mean, I realize there's a jump right there. There's a gap that I have spanned that is not necessarily normal, but that is what comes to mind. It's like a weird fart.
I mean, we all have our ways we deal with normal stuff. Like for instance, when I'm very frustrated, I always think on a Tyrannosaurus Rex trying to make a bed. It's always hilarious to me.
That's interesting. I worked with a man who was from Uruguay, but he grew up in Argentina, and he had this thing where he was like, all right, if you see that I have a shark on my door, don't come in. I was like, okay, I get that sharks are, not friendly, but that's a weird way of saying, like, I need privacy to put a shark on my door.
Oh, man. Well, cool beans. Super.
Which segues well into Stay Frosty, right?
Stay Frosty. Okay. Okay. I was going to say arrivederci.
Well, due to we are drinking our favorite whiskey, not in my case.
I'm not drinking my favorite whiskey.
Oh, well.
Hell no.
Well, we are drinking
I'm sitting
whiskey.
at home. Do you think I'm actually like drinking something that I would be sharing with people? No. It's Jameson night. What are you talking about?
Well, due to you all, every time that I hear the Dos Equis commercial, the "Estoy thirsty, mis amigos," I always enjoy it. I always find it my signature. I always thirsty. How about that?
I can understand the leap there, but like no, if I'm going to drink solo, I'm going to drink cheap.
I got
There
you.
is no reason for me to drink the good stuff if I'm by myself.
Well, I'm drinking a Johnny Walker Black Label, which is
I'm sorry.
No. We how is the Black Label? It's
Black Label is let me put it in simple term, it won't create any memory for you. It won't be something dramatically good. It's not bad either, in my opinion. It's a soft drink. It's a soft whiskey it's not memorable, but it won't be horrible either. It's very generic. That's how I will describe it. But it's not like the Red Label. That's garbage. The Black Label is decent. It's okay.
the Red Label's for mixing. It's like it's meant to be like, yeah, it's a mixer. It's not supposed to be on its own.
For me, the Red Label is like the cool beans fart that you mentioned of whiskey from Johnny Walker.
Have you had the Blue Label?
I have not. You told me that was also a non-memorable experience based on the price.
Oh, no. The Blue Label was incredibly memorable, but it had nothing to do with the flavor of the whiskey.
Just the cost of that you had to pay?
Just the error that I made. You know, I'd consider it like a stupid tax. I did a stupid thing and I had to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, I haven't tried the blue label. It's one of the things that my dad wants to try because he enjoys the black label as a, you know, as a very inoffensive whiskey. Yeah, and that's how I will try it as well. When I drink the Johnny Walker Black Label, is inoffensive, is a good companion when you're alone, as Jesse was mentioned. Is nothing very special. I'm not saying that it's at the level of Jameson or no, but I mean it's okay for the price. It's okay. The Blue Label, my dad wants to try it because he's very curious. In Colombia, we don't have the very exotic ones. We just get the commercial ones. So it'll be like Chivas Regal, Buchanan's, Johnny Walker, those that are very commercial. Maybe I cannot think any other that I see in my country. Anyway, and then you of those, Johnny Walker is average, and of the averages, I mean, you tend to believe that maybe the Blue Label would be an special experience. I haven't tried it, so.
Well, if the reason I didn't like the flavor of the Blue Label is because it was more peaty than I wanted. Like I was thinking it was going to be more smooth, and it was more peaty, and that's not what I was expecting. There were just so many things, you know. There were things about that I just was, you know, that drink that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting it to be so peaty, and I wasn't expecting it to be so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
I have to interject. It's such a proud moment to hear you describe something as peaty. Just the fact that terminology comes across.
Mm-hmm. I learned it drinking with you, man. It's certainly not as peaty as that Talisker Storm, but like I knew what it was. I knew how to describe it, having had the Talisker Storm.
The Storm, it just stinks, but the flavor is pretty good.
I will have to say, the next time we get together, the Angel's Envy Rye is what I'll be bringing because you have to smell it. Like I have never smelled a drink that honestly should be a candle and should make your entire house smell this way. I mean, it's good too, but the fact that it smells that phenomenal, like I just have to bring it for that.
So
nothing else.
So the opposite of like what you wanted us to experience when you shared the Talisker.
Yes. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I've got to go for extremes. You know,
it's a good way to bookend it.
Yeah.
Means I have no clue where I'll go after that, but at least I know I have a bottle of the rye set aside. It's sealed, ready to go.
I find that, I mean, I'm thinking with all the goodies that you have, that my ABC store used to be good until the new manager came in. Now it's just...
I've had a year to collect this stuff. Don't let it all rest on one particular store and session.
That's right.
Like we've had... It's been, what, at least 6 months since we last had a session, if not longer. But I've had the better part of a year to collect what I have currently.
Well, we definitely need a healthy pours.
Yeah. We should do one before it gets too warm so we can have a little fire.
I was thinking on that actually. But I took a schedule out, like a calendar, and I was rejected.
Yeah, I'm not going to check a calendar this time of day. Like you can pick a spot. I don't care. I'll show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can put it in the chat that we have of the Untitled podcast. The three of us are there.
Podcasters.
Yeah, the podcasters thingy.
Well, I mean, there is technically a Slack instance that JF and I have joined that for some reason or another my co-host has yet to join.
I don't have Slack on my computer right now.
Shame on you.
I know. I just have to give a hard time. There's nothing that's been posted in there. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of I created the free instance and then we haven't used it.
You know, the other day I looked for the dev null chat and realized that That was in Slack.
Yeah.
I thought that
We
was a
have
clever.
shortness there.
That was a clever name.
Yeah, DevNull.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, we cannot openly put in a corporate stuff like drinking party. It's not like we're healthy poors. We need to put it like
talking code.
Yeah, DevNull. Yeah, we can put it NPE as well or something like that.
I was gonna say that one of the most clever usernames that I heard of was KBB Keeper. There was somebody that I worked with that their username was KBB Keeper, and I was so jealous of it.
KBB Keeper, like Kelly Blue Book thing.
It was. I don't think it's specific to Apple, but it was whenever you were replacing a part in a computer, you had the KBB that was coming out, the known bad board, and then you put in a KGB, which was a known good board. So even when it was, it was applied to components, but it came from a PCB. You have a good board and you have a bad board, and then it's like at that point it was like any part was a KBB or a KGB. So you take out a hard drive. A customer, I want to keep that hard drive because maybe I have this notion that I'll recover data, and before they realize what it's like to actually try to recover data, and so they'd ask to keep their hard drive, and so if that was deemed that they could, then it was called a KBB keeper, a known bad board that the customer kept.
Well, of all those boards, KGB sounds a bit Russian, just to me.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But the whole thing was at the time, KBB keepers were a pain in the ass to have to deal with. Then somebody,
it was just a lot of paperwork.
It was just having to convince somebody that could authorize it to do it was a pain in the ass. So even if you didn't have to do the paperwork, trying to convince somebody that it was a good idea was a pain in the ass. And so somebody was really clever, and their username for Apple was KBB Keeper.
Interesting.
It's kind of inside, but it was fun.
It sounds like it.
There are plenty of stories to tell there. Just most of them are not appropriate for recording and sharing with the world at large.
I can imagine.
Or the handful of people who happen to potentially listen.
But it's out there for the entire world to download. So,
right.
There's how TikTok has a thing where it's tell me you are fill in the blank without telling me you're fill in the blank, and different things like that. There's one was what feels like it's illegal to know, what's something that you learned on the job that feels illegal to know. And there's been some interesting things, and I have one from working at Apple, and that is if you have to have your computer checked in and they don't write down a particular cosmetic blemish, even if it's a pre-existing cosmetic blemish, and you point it out to them after your repair and say, I don't remember this being there, they're obligated to fix it if they don't have it documented. Or they're not legally obligated to fix it. They take on that obligation. If you point it out, hey, I don't remember this scratch. And then they look at it, and then they look at the cosmetic description, and they don't see that specific scratch was listed. They're going to replace that part for you.
Huh.
Free of charge. Or rather, they're going to eat the cost.
Or at least that was the case when previously employed.
No, it's still the case.
Okay. I wasn't sure how up to date that particular policy would, be.
It's
the only reason I mention that is I know there have been a number of changes over the past couple of years, and so I'm not well versed enough to know what those changes actually have. Chained into ramification wise.
Yeah. Well, I can totally tell it's way more of a pain in the ass than a KBB keeper.
Yeah, that I have no doubt. I don't think I have anything else. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add to the after show before we call it a show?
I got nothing.
Neither do I.
All right. A little bit of housekeeping. JF, do you still have access to the recording uploads?
I don't know. Let me check. Where was it, by the way?
You don't have to check immediately. It was the iCloud shared drive. Just if you drop the recording in there, then I can grab it. Just, check tonight or in the morning. Let me know.
Yeah,
no big deal.
Yeah,
I still have access.
Yeah, I would hope so. I know I haven't revoked yours.
I will check it tomorrow early morning, and I will let you know.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
If I haven't seen anything show up, I'll ping you if I, am reaching a point where I actually pay attention. Normally, I check it, mid-morning just to see if John's uploaded stuff and I have to ping him or not.
Yeah, I forget, so most of the time, I usually try to as soon as I stop recording, I move the files over.
Uploading record. Yeah, actually, I see folder shared on iCloud by Jesse Hart. Recording uploads.
Yep, that's
there
the
it
one.
is.
Okay, perfect. Then I will move it right away, as John said, because if not, I will forget.
Oh, that's fine. I have no problems pinging you, mid-morning and saying, "Hey, what are you
Move
doing?"
it, damn it! Sounds good.
I don't have anything else then, unless there's something else that you suddenly thought of in the half a minute of housekeeping. I'd say that calls it.
Yep. I think
That's
so.
it.
All right. Well, have a good night.
You guys stay frosty.
Cool beans.
Oh, no!
And with that, it's a wrap.
Boom.